Have you ever walked away from a shift thinking, man, I should have said something, but you froze? Well, you're not alone. And today we're going to say that is going to end as of today. In this particular video, we're going to talk about silent suffering happening behind nurses' smile. If you've ever felt ignored, dismissed, afraid to speak up in your workplace, well, this video is for you. By the end of this video, you'll understand the root of workplace silence and walk away with the tools to begin to use your voice again, not as a weapon, but as a transformational instrument of change. Let's talk about it. Well, I wanted to just share a story in this first part because many of you know that I started a podcast and actually was in 2022, and it's called When the Moment Chooses You. And it actually stemmed out of me experiencing injustice, racism, as I was going up and coming up the ladder in my corporate job. And so in 2020, when the murder of George Floyd happened, is when I literally went into prayer because it was such a traumatic moment for me to witness this. And I heard in prayer time, what you do in this moment will determine your destiny and dictate your future. And so I knew right then that I had been through quite a few scenarios or incidents that really were less than they should have been, really was devaluing. And I talk about it on my podcast a lot, and it's also in my book. But that moment, what you do in this moment will determine your destiny and dictate your future, shifted me into this really phenomenal place. I knew that I had to move from anger and frustration to action and impact. And that's what I did. I began to start sharing my story of some of the challenges that I went through. And to my surprise, that story literally went viral and started touching other people's lives, giving other people the courage to speak up. And so for 20 years, I was silent. For 20 years, things were happening. I just wasn't giving voice to it. And so it is so important for you to seize those moments. And sometimes it's not quite time to talk about it, but you talk about it after you've gotten to a place of healing. And see, I wasn't willing to share because I had all these other things that I was thinking about. Some of the reasons that we don't share and we stay silent, and they were some of my reasons, is the fear of retaliation. Some of the things and some of the incidences that happened to me, I didn't want to say anything because I felt like if I said something, since I was kind of like the only in the group, that I would be retaliated against. And a lot of people that I've talked to feel the same way. And then we have toxic leadership. There is some leadership that have not done the work. And so you're feeling inadequate. You don't feel safe talking about certain things. And of course, when you're repeatedly dismissed, you just shut it down and you don't even want to talk anymore. I had a leader before, and I would talk about different things, and I'm slaying it, I'm doing my thing, but I recognize that there would be times when that person would try to overtalk me. Or if I talked about something, they would say something like, well, what Charlene means is this. And the person did it over and over and over again. And I was like, what is her trip? And then other people started realizing that she was doing that specifically to me. And so the other person came and talked to me about it. And then she was like, what is going on with that? And I was like, I have no idea. But I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm just like a little bit frustrated with this. And then I finally had to call her out on it and to let her know, I don't want you to do that, because now you're operating in some microaggressions and all the other things that she was operating in. And so that was a moment where I had to stand up. I had to speak up. I had to not be concerned about retaliation or anything else for that matter. And so, anyway, there's going to be like moments that we're constantly, always preparing ourselves to speak up, because speaking up is not easy at all. Another reason that I think that it happens is the culture of hierarchy or paying your dues. I see that happening a lot with new graduates there and new nursing students. They got to pay their dues. They got to work really hard. They got to do all of these different things. And now they're afraid to say something. They're afraid to say, oh, I don't really know how to do this, but I don't want to say anything because I don't want people to think I don't know. You don't know when you're a nursing student. And so we have created a culture where people are not feeling safe enough to actually say, hey, I need some help. And so silence often starts as protection, but over time, it becomes a prison. Literally, it becomes a prison because you continue to just continue to take it and to keep going and to keep going. And that's literally what I did over so many years because I was like, you know what? I am not going to even waste my energy on this because, like, what's the point? But really, underneath, there's something underneath that was telling me that you need to share your story, you need to say something. And I did not really respond to that till much, much later in my career when I found out who I was. And then I wasn't afraid to share my story at that point. The second thing is A from the heart framework that I've been talking to you about, and that's with authenticity, honoring that voice that you have that's within you. You see, your voice is part of your healing. And so authenticity isn't loud, it's aligned. It's choosing to speak from who you are, not who they expect you to be. Let me say that again. It's choosing to speak from who you are and not from who they expect you to be. I want you to ask yourself a question. Let's get into some questions. Let me go to these questions really quick. What do I wish I could say? If I asked you that question right now, what do you wish you could say right now? If none of that was bothering you, what fear is keeping you silent? See, those are all personal questions that you have to grapple with. And here's another one. What would the strongest version of yourself do right now? Like I would ask myself, what would the strongest version of me do right now? Because I've been literally delivered from people and their expectations, I would speak up. If I saw something, I would say something. But that was not my story all the time. I saw something, didn't want to rock the boat, so to speak. And that's why I didn't say anything. But when I finally had the courage to stand in my truth and stand in my power and say what needs to be said with my voice, that's when change happened. That's when transformation happened. And so let's slip on over to transformation. And so transformation, your voice changes systems. I love this quote that I found by Diana Hardy, and it says, one voice at the right pitch can create an avalanche. And I truly believe that because when I found my voice, I began to start speaking up. I began to be a little on the disruptive side, intentionally, because what I found out when I spoke up, I was speaking up for those who did not have a voice, that did not have the courage to speak up. And so that's why it's so important for you to speak up, because there's somebody else in the background looking at you, watching you, wanting to say something, but they don't have the courage. So when you find your voice and you begin to start speaking up, then you begin to start changing things and you inspire other people to get the courage to speak up as well. So your voice changes yourself and it changes some of the institutions and systems that we work for. As I said, speaking up isn't just about you. It's about the environment. When you speak up, you don't just free yourself, you open the door for others to be honest too. Just like I just said earlier, you open the door for others to get the courage to tap someone on the shoulder and say, you know what, I don't like that when you said that. You know, or just like I had to call that leader out. You know what, when you do this, this makes me feel this way. I don't appreciate the way that you just said that. Let me speak for myself. You don't know what's in my head. You know, just really getting bold. And I was a little shy girl, and you would have never told me that I would be speaking up the way that I speak up now. Now, here's some real life courage statement scripts that I want to leave you with. Number one, can we revisit that decision? I have some concerns about how it might impact safety. Here's another one. I want to offer another perspective that I think hasn't been considered. And boy, did I use that one a lot in 2020 because we were dealing with like a double pandemic. We were dealing with people that were dying with COVID 19. We were dealing with people, African Americans in particular, Blacks in particular, because of the murder of George Floyd. And that was not only the murder, there was like 3 in 1 month, probably more than that, but 3 that were in the public eye of unarmed black or brown men and women that unfortunately died. So I want to offer you another perspective. So when all of that happened in 2020, I was on vacation. And so when I came back from vacation, I knew intuitively that people were going to want to talk. And I was totally okay with that. I had been praying about it. I had moved from, remember, frustration to action and impact. So I was ready to be the change. I was ready to be the one that can at least start the conversation so that we can begin the healing process. And so I put in the chat in this leadership meeting, hey, I'm available if people want to talk. And it was like the most wonderful thing I can do because I had people coming to my office, really just showing care and showing concern for me, for all of those that were affected. And then that's where I had an opportunity to say, look, if they said something that was probably insensitive at the time, I would say something like, hey, I want to offer you another perspective. Let me see if you can look at it like this. You may not be able to understand it because you don't walk in my shoes, but here's my perspective about it. And I think if you can listen to this perspective, then it would open up your understanding a little bit more of why people are acting in this particular way. Another one is I don't feel comfortable with how that was handled, and I'd like to talk about it, like being real honest about it. I did a project, and it was culture, humility, and mindfulness practices in the space where I was leading and working. And it was really great because I created a safe space for people to be able to if you see something, say something kind of. I taught them about culture humility, and we use this tool that can help people to be more culturally humble as they take care of humanity. And it was very effective because that was an opportunity. Like if a coworker said something that was like totally inappropriate, that person, because we had been talking about how to approach it, was able to go to that person and say, you know what, I really didn't like how you said that. That comment that you said right there made me feel like A, B, and C. So it really promoted, communicate. I mean, really tough conversations, really tough interaction, but it really was a game changer because before you didn't talk about those kind of things, but this actually helped open up a space, a safe space where you can talk about it and share your perspective and then keep on moving. And then, of course, when you allow people to come into your world like that, you literally you become closer. You really do. And when you think of culture humility in particular, I am trying to learn from you as much as you are trying to learn from me so that we can grow together. And so, anyway, that was just super, super amazing. Let me tell you this because in our workplaces that we have now, we have got to do a better job because incivility is running rapid. Bullying is still running rapid. Just to share a brief story, I taught at my alma mater this previous semester, and I was really disheartened when I began to start talking to the students. A lot of the students that are going into the hospitals today, they're going in really challenged. A lot of them shared that they did not feel safe speaking up already. And they felt like when they asked questions, they would be looked at, like they were stupid or something like that. And, knowing that they need to learn. But, and I think possibly that has a lot to do with because a lot of times people are nurses are so overwhelmed. They're precepting, they have heavy assignments, all of the things that make nursing very challenging. and then you get thrown in a student at the same time. But I just would like to say to all of my nursing colleagues out there, it's okay for you to say, you know what, I'm not feeling precepting. I think it would be better to say that you don't want to precept than to take on preceptorship and then not really have your heart into it. Or perhaps you are burned out. Perhaps you need to take a break or step away from nursing just for a moment or whatever, whether it be vacation, whatever it is, so that your burnout symptoms will not impact the next generation, because we have to get the next generation ready to be able to take care of all of us when it's time. So just encouraging you to take care of yourself first. That's like always number one. And so I hope you heard that with my heart of how I'm trying to say it. So I want to thank you guys so much for being here. If you're ready to claim your voice again, I would love for you to subscribe to this video, to this channel, and also put a like and then comment. What's one thing you wish you had said in a hard moment? I'd love to hear that in the comments. Your vulnerability can help someone else feel brave. So let me know what your thoughts are, especially now in our nursing world, the way that it is. Thank you for being here. In this next video, we're going to talk about emotional safety, the foundation of a healthy healthcare team. Until then, remember, your voice is sacred. Use it for the truth with love and with power. And this is my little recap. This is what we've discussed today. You have permission to feel what they feel. There's a deeper understanding of why silence is so common. Reflection tools to reconnect you with your voice. And I gave you a few practical statements to use in challenging conversations. There's so many, many more. And then I encourage you that your truth has transformational value. You are so important in the environment that you work for. If you don't speak up, then who will? If you see something that is inappropriate, then say something. I mean, we should hold each other accountable, because maybe someone's having a horrible day or whatever. And then you're the one that comes along and say, hey, I see you're having a hard time. Why don't you take 5 minutes? Or, whatever that is, so we can start taking care of each other as nurses. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. And remember, transformation happens from the inside out. See you next time.